Guys, I'm going live.
But Indiana's winning.
I'd love to see Remzo in Indiana. I got to be honest with you.
The only Latino in the entire state. I'll have the monopoly.
No, I like Indiana very, very much.
What are your call letters again? 93.1 W.
IBC.
IBC.
Number one again this month.
Congratulations.
We call it the Ben Stein bounce.
I am very, very grateful.
And on that note, I want to welcome everyone to the world according
Indiana's winning.
to Ben Stein. We are joined tonight welcome back. He's becoming I want him more as a regular contributor. Rob Kendall from 93.1.
Hello, Rob.
IBC.
Power to the people.
The future of conservative talk radio, and he is the future of conservative talk radio. I truly and humbly believe that. He is a true patriot, and I hope he's syndicated in every radio market across the United States very soon. And of course, we're joined by the man, the myth, Remzo, who has a cat, Martinez. And Remzo, I kid about the cats, and I've thought about getting one, but then
the cats
I thought
don't kid about you, Judah.
I thought
that's very funny.
They listen, but
that's very funny. I like that. That is funny.
I thought if I added that on my dating resume, being a conservative, sober Jew that lives in Los Angeles that owns a cat, it would totally take me off the radar of ever getting a date in the state of Los Angeles.
No. Indiana, just to get a date in Indiana girls are great looking girls and are women, and they are kind, intelligent, empathetic. They're wonderful people. I think you would like it a lot there.
No, this is Remzo. Remzo has a girl.
You both like it a lot there. Remzo, you would really like it a lot there because you're young. You're young, and that's a big plus.
And of course, he's very young, but don't let his age fool you. He's very mature. And of course, this show wouldn't be complete without actor, writer, provocateur, sinner, saint, lover, husband, grandfather, America's humble servant, Benjamin Jeremy Stein. Welcome, sir.
My honor, sir.
And I want to welcome everybody that's listening into the YouTube chat and contributing. We have a lot to talk about tonight. We take your comments with humbleness, and we are honored and privileged that you listen to us and have been downloading the show like crazy. It is truly an honor that you've been doing that. And on that note, let's get right to it, because this has been a big week. Really been a big week. I want to say, and I said this to Ben before the election, Rob and Remzo and Ben. I said, this could be the type of win-win scenario for the conservative movement. If Trump wins, it's a win we wanted, but a Trump loss would show the frauds in the party like we've never seen. And I was looking at the CPAC numbers, Ben Stein. 93% of the people at CPAC thought the election was stolen. That's YouTube. That's the people at CPAC, not us, of course. But it's 93%. And the straw poll at the end had most of them wanting him to run. So I ask you, Ben Stein, where does that take us with this party?
Well, Mr. Trump obviously has a huge lead at this point. A lot of questions. One, how's his health? To me, he looks as strong as an ox. I don't have any problems about anything that appears about his health. He seems to be mentally extremely acute, unlike some we could mention who live in another address, or if you can call it living. I think his support within the party is enormous. I don't see why he should not be way ahead. And I think people are going to realize that this is a man of honesty, decency, and common sense. I sent you last night very late, Jude. I imagine you were already asleep. A famous story about a very, very, very famous Greek philosopher, Diogenes.
Which you posted on Parler, yes.
Well, yes, exactly. Which, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Which he wandered around the streets of his town, which I believe was Athens, but I might be wrong, with a lantern, and he would hold it up to the face of the man he met. And someone asked him what he was doing. He said he was looking for the face of an honest man, and he hadn't seen one yet. at CPAC, we saw one honestly makes sense, isn't just giving us a line of crap to please the extreme left and the thought mongers and the fear mongers. I think the Republican Party's future with Donald Trump, or even with him and somebody great competing with him, is extremely bright.
So I want to ask you a question before I get to Remzo and Rob. So what changed your mind? Was it just, you and I have discussed this with Nixon and, all the false claims of him, not liking a certain race of people, but at the end of the day, there was no bigger supporter of the state of Israel than Richard Nixon.
Or
and
Jews,
I want to say,
or of Jews generally.
Right. So you go by what Richard, Trump was about action, and the actions that he did spoke louder than sometimes his words. And, so when you bring up this honest man thing, he actually was one of the few presidents, Ben, if you agree or disagree, that actually kept his promises or tried to.
I think in terms of keeping his promises and in terms of linking up with the American people, in terms of heart to heart, he was the guy. It's an amazing thing. He's a very rich man. He lives an extremely luxurious. He lives an extremely luxurious. I'm good. He lives a luxurious life, and but I think he speaks to the guy drinking a beer, driving a truck, handling a forklift better than any president the Republican Party has ever had.
What say you, Rob Kendall?
Well, first of all, at least once a week, I refer to on air my good friend Ben Stein.
God bless you. God bless you.
Friend Ben Stein.
God bless you.
Hope that's okay.
God bless you, sir. I am honored, sir. God bless you.
All right. I think it's fascinating. We were talking before it went on. The number that was interesting to me was 95% of people there said they wanted the Trump policies. And that was what was fascinating to me, is that when George W. Bush left office, I don't know what that number was. It wasn't anywhere close to 95.
Well, wait a second. Let's not snicker too much. I personally liked Mr. Trump, Mr. Bush very, very much. Obviously, not the kind of guy that Trump was in many ways, but also in many ways a very great guy. Both Bushes.
But Ben, you didn't like his policies when you look back on them now.
Wait. I didn't like his policies that much, but he was awfully nice to me personally, and
Okay,
that
so
says a lot about what life is like. But I think Mr. Trump has a certain warmth about him. This is kind of fascinating to me. I've been around Washington in and out a long, long time. Very few people in politics have much warmth to them. Trump does. He has a warmth to him that connects right out there through the television screen to the American people. I don't think there's anybody else in politics who's got it.
Rob, you were in the middle.
So the question is if you can get the Trump stuff without some of the, I don't know, his baggage, collateral damage, stuff that comes with Trump, is that going to be enough for people, or do they need Trump?
That's a great point you were going to bring up, and I wanted to get that in the next segment. But that's a brilliant point, and somebody wrote about that today. It's something I've spoken about that. But Remzo, you as a guy that came aboard the Trump train on this election, I don't know if you watch CPAC or not, but what are your thoughts on that? That 93%, 30 million people, I believe, watched this event.
If I may say so, Judy, you hit me with that as I was driving over to buy my wife her salmon, and I was stunned at that. That's a hell of a number. Maybe you can repeat that for our audience.
31 million people via all streams watched Remzo Donald Trump speak at CPAC.
Compared with
5.6 million people that night that watched the Golden Globes.
Quite a number.
I mean, what movies were out to nominate for Golden Globes? I think
but they have all these movie stars, and they're dressed all
in their
dressed
fancy cars and their limousines.
Right.
Movie theaters in Virginia are open, so I went to the Alamo Draft House near my house, and I saw this movie called Nomadland because it was the only thing showing, and I needed to get out of the house. So a friend calls me afterwards. He's like, "How was the movie?" And I'm like, "It was an indie flick." And he's like, "Is that good?" And I'm like, "It's an indie flick. It is what it is."
What does that mean? What does that mean?
It It's one of those art house films that, you know, when you're somebody like me and your favorite franchise is the Fast and the Furious, a slow take on post-corporate America in the Midwest is probably not one of those things you want to sit around and watch for 3 hours.
I love how by the way, art house is code for they had no money to make the movie.
Yes.
But go on, Renzo.
I think I'm the person who bought the only ticket for the movie. I was the only one there. I didn't watch the speech. I caught some highlights. I don't take these CPAC polls as too much. Ron Paul won overwhelmingly 2011. Ben Carson won 2013. Ted Cruz was leading 2016.
No, but I'm referring to the 93. Rems, I'm referring to the 93% that said they believe the election was stolen. That is a tremendous amount of.
I mean, they answer every poll that way, and I mean, am I expecting any less at CPAC?
So you're
I'm not really. I just want anybody but Tom Cotton. Give me literally anybody but Tom Cotton.
Why don't you like him, sir? I know.
Because I don't want to bomb Canada, Ben.
Well, so
the Canadians have done nothing to me, except send us southward Justin Bieber.
So
what about Justin Trudeau just existing?
He hasn't done anything to my life.
Okay, fine.
Rob, I see you wanted to counter Ramza.
Well, just to that number, that 93%. We talked about this a lot on the air this week. The problem is Republicans don't seem to have a plan on what to do about it. And that's where the issue is going to come, because unless you are able through a legislative process of some sort, you're able to do something about it, it's going to happen again. And the problem with this is a lot of the stuff is happening with county election officials, which are a very local thing, and it puts the onus and the importance on the Secretary of State and gubernatorial elections. So it's one thing to say, yeah, there were mass irregularities, stolen, whatever you want to call it, but you've got to have a plan to do something about it.
Well, recently this week, Michigan, right? Michigan has passed, the state legislators there. Arizona, I believe, the state legislators there. And obviously Texas, the state legislators, they're a state that doesn't really need to worry right now about that as much. But there are certain states that are fighting back for real. And Georgia was another one that I believe is also fighting back to try to get this election.
For integrity.
For voter integrity, for signatures. So, because a lot of the state legislators are Republican across the country, and I use that word very lightly, Republican, because we never know, what we're going to get. It's sort of like Republicans are a lot like a blind date. The odds are.
That's very funny. That's very good. That's very
good.
Good.
That's the quote of the night.
Yeah.
But Judah, they were in Pennsylvania too, and you had just state judges who just ignored the legislature, and then in Pennsylvania, the Senate, the Republicans come out and say, "Wait a second, these guys just made up the law. We didn't do this. Hey, let's go to the ultimate in case of emergency break glass, which is the Supreme Court." And the Supreme Court says, "No, we're not going to do anything about it." So what do? You have rogue judges who ignore the law, and then the people who are supposed to be the check on the judges refuse to be a check on the judges.
Yeah, that was a tragedy. That was a tragedy. What's happened in terms of the states backing off their promises to their own voters is really embarrassing. I don't like it, as they say in Ren and Stimpy. I don't like it. No, sir, I just don't like it. Right, Remzo, am I right? Right?
Yes.
But Remzo,
I think I knew Ren and Stimpy. I got you there, didn't I, my friend? Anyway, we see some signs of life in the state legislatures already, and we're going to see more signs of life as the Democrats pull ever more illegal immigrants, illegal aliens into this country, as they pull ever more people in who are likely to commit crimes and likely to be a drain on the public welfare. I think more and more of these people in the state legislatures are going to speak out. More and more voters are going to speak out for them. I do not see the future of the Republican Party as being dim at all, except for the media monopoly against anything conservative or anything with good sense. Last time we were on a couple of days ago, we talked about how what we like about libertarianism is that it keeps the state from having a monopoly on violence. At present, the media has a monopoly on violence against the truth. That has to be fixed, and that can be fixed day by day, hour by hour, by people at the state level, and I hope it will be.
And you just gave me another good nickname, which would be Dim Mitt. Dim Mitt. And I'm sorry if Mitt Romney is a friend of yours too, Ben.
I don't know him at all, but I did used to have an American Motors car.
Did you put your dog on the roof?
No,
but Remzo, and I know you like to scoff at numbers, but that is a pretty big percentage. That is a lot of people that watch the event, 31 million people, which I want to get to the next segment, Rob, which you brought up. So Remzo, if you could please tell people where they could find us.
Well, first off, if you haven't subscribed to the show, go ahead and hit the bell icon so you get a notification each and every time we go live or upload new content. I want to thank you. We're only 4 reviews away from 100 views from 100 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. So please, if you can, go to Apple Podcasts and leave the show an honest review and a 5-star rating. And if you can't get enough of Ben, if you want to go ahead and get him in your inbox multiple times a week, go ahead and check out benstein.substack.com. That's benstein.substack.com.
Thank you, Remzo. And you're having a few audio issues there. If you could plug into the router directly.
Sorry, it's the internet.
Okay, it's the internet. See, it's the internet. You blame it on Al Gore. He's not perfect, for God's sake.
Al Gore's amazing internet is not so amazing tonight.
Not perfect.
And I want to welcome everybody back to the World According to Ben Stein. And what's it called? Rob brings up a great point. Sometimes a little time away. I think, John Nolte for Breitbart brought up something that I've spoken about. I think Trump, the best thing right now that happened to Trump was getting banned from Twitter and was getting sort of suspended or whatever they want to call it from Facebook. The reason I say this is because I think it could give you a little time away. It could give you a little time and distance, Rob, from, 31 million people wanted to see him again. Now, had he been tweeting every day, had he been doing all that stuff every day, which I'm not for Twitter banning, so nobody get me wrong, but I like to use the analogous sometimes of George Steinbrenner getting banned from baseball for a little bit, allowed the Yankee dynasty to be built. And I think Trump is so surrounded now, but I think he's surrounded finally by good allies, that it's really allowing him to grow.
Yeah, so there's an old saying, how can I miss you if you won't go away? And
that's very funny. That's very funny.
You know who the master of this was, and I can't believe I'm going to do a professional wrestling reference on a Ben Stein show, but I am. Hulk Hogan was the master at this throughout his career.
Yeah, brother.
Where Hogan was great at knowing when to go away. You'd see him, you'd get tired of him, he'd get worn out, the crowds would start to dwindle, he'd go away for your comeback. People couldn't get enough of Hulk Hogan. And I think part of that is with Trump, like you just said, Judah, is you get so inundated and overwhelmed, and because he is such a fighter that everything he does is controversial, you go a month without seeing the guy and you go, wow, it's great to see him again. And clearly, based on the numbers, a lot of people wanted to see him again.
I think you have given us a very, very powerful insight into the world of humanity generally and into the interactions of human beings, generally speaking. But I'd like to go back to this whole idea of the Republicans having a chance to grow up now, go from the ground up and be stronger and stronger and stronger. And we have to do a miracle of somehow doing it with the media stomping on us and spraying Roundup or whatever it is. It's an herbicide on us all the time. But I think we can do it if we really believe in ourselves. Let's remember in 1856, when the Republican Party started, we had basically no friends and lots and lots and lots of enemies. And in 4 years, we won the election. And then after that, the Republican Party dominated the landscape of the country for a long, long time. So it can be done. We have to latch on to the moral high ground. And I think we already have that, which is freedom. We are the party of America. We are the party of freedom. What is America? Freedom with great opportunity for economic advancement. What is the program of the Democrat Party? The iron control of the bureaucracy and the police. No, we'll take freedom, and I think we can run with it.
Remzo.
I don't know how to add to that. I mean, I look at everything from really a local level because
can I tell you why I want to go to you on this one, Remzo?
Because you can go ahead.
Because of your
It was funny, Remzo. It was funny.
Because the stuff Trump brought up on Sunday, the points of how to get back, are very libertarian. It's not what Trump was speaking about. Isn't your old Republican Party? He's talking about a new way of taking stuff back. He brought up some very interesting points. I know you missed the speech, Remzo, but Trump's speech was very enlightening. I mean, the second half of it, at least, and about the points that Republicans have to do, the things we need to do, and be accountable, and all those different sort of things, Remzo. So
let me show a screenshot of your average middle class Republican right now. 1 in 3 Americans don't have $500 in emergency savings, which means if you have to go to the ER, you do not have the cash on hand to go ahead and cover the ER bill. When we go ahead and expand that, according to a Dave Ramsey study, come 2020, 1 in 5 Americans don't have $1,000 in savings. So the people that are saying that we're the party of capitalism, we're the party of fiscal responsibility, we're waiting for the stimulus check that will come out after we bomb some more Syrians. And then when we look onward, we're the party of take advantage, homeschool your children, take responsibility over your children. The public education system is turning them all into Marxists. Yeah, I see day after day people screaming, open up the schools, open up the schools. Being a moderate conservative in Washington, D.C., being a commentator, is putting your kids in public education and then writing a piece in National Review wondering why you're losing the culture war. He can say all these beautiful things, but here's what I know about my local Republicans here in Virginia. They've lost the suburbs. Our taxes are going up. They're going after our gun. The school policies are worse. The zoning policies are worse. The affordable income is going ahead and bringing down the housing prices around here. We can talk about all of this stuff, but Republicans need to remember this is a ground-up effort. You can't all depend on one man to fix everything.
But that was his point. That was what he brought up on Sunday, that it's going to take a team to change.
A team of tens of millions. And by the way, Remzo, every point you made is a valid and excellent point, but not one point you made is contradicted by the idea that our central tenet is freedom. We want the freedom for individual human beings and their families to move up by education, work, imagination, creativity, saving. We want those freedoms. We do not want government taking those away from us.
Absolutely, 110%. I want to see more action, though, because this has been sliding.
You're completely right. Everything else is just a bumper sticker until you see it happen. It's just a slogan, Rob. And one of the things that has been really interesting that I've been seeing this week, basically, is we're not going to have anything passed in the Senate for 4 years. So Democrats are pretty much, everything is going to be done by executive order, which is pretty much, they're not going to get amnesty passed. They're not going to get anything passed, Rob. So we're basically sitting for 4 years with nothing but executive order, or 2 years.
The issue, and I know we've talked about this before, though, but Republicans have got to wake up that there are a lot of Republicans who are not their friend. Like, it's no longer, like the movies, white hat, black hat back in the 50s Westerns. There are a lot of very bad Republicans in charge. We have one in our state, in Eric Holcomb, who did all the liberal stuff, the business shutdowns, the mask mandates, trying to put people in jail. The state legislature did absolutely nothing to stop him. The people who are Republican voters have got to wake up and start taking primaries serious, because in many cases, the Republicans are just as bad as the Democrats. I mean, this guy, Todd Young, who's running for re-election here for U.S. Senate, he kickstarted his campaign today, and all the establishment people lining up behind him, and he's got all these endorsements from all these people. And it's like, what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. It means the establishment likes you because you are a useful tool for them. And people who are Republican voters need to wake up and realize all Republicans are not alike and are not equal.
We've got to wake up to the fact that we have to work. And I liked what I think it was Remzo just said. Unless we put in the work, it's all just a bumper sticker. We have to go to work. I mean, for example, in my hometown I have many hometowns, but in my hometown of Beverly Hills, California, we desperately need more police everywhere. We have crazy people all over the place here, and we need more police. That's a local issue. That is a local issue, and it's about freedom, even though it's also about the police, because I want the freedom to be able to rally down at the end of my block for Trump, even though the election's over, supposedly. I want that freedom, and I don't want the Democrats taking it away from me. I'd like to see that freedom rallied for. There are a lot of Jewish Republicans in Beverly Hills, and a lot of us really like Trump. I'd like to see that be our issue. We have a home in North Idaho. It's a fabulous, fabulous place. Don't go there. It's incredibly crowded right now, so don't go there. But there are some local issues there too. We've got to work on those too. That's vital. We have a home in Malibu. There's some local issues there too. We've got to work on those issues too. But work, work, work.
Hey, Ben, hey, Judah, can I ask Ben a question real quick?
Yeah,
Yes.
you could ask him 10 questions.
The average person probably can't tell you who their governor or maybe even the vice president is. So how do you take those people and get them fired up about trying to join their local town or city council, their local planning commission, board of zoning appeals? How do we do that?
We get really, really good looking women to run.
By the way, okay, I just want to bring up two things. Ghost Runner brought up something that Trump did. He called out most of the rhinos. He literally listed all of the rhinos. And secondly, one of the comments was from Brady, Ben, is that we're having a recall now for our prosecutor, for the LA, what is it, the district attorney of LA?
Mr. Gascon, an amazing, amazing man who explicitly wants to let murderers and killers out on the street, as far as I understand, who explicitly says, yes, you may have committed a crime. Yes, the police have busted you. Yes, you've confessed. We want to let you out anyway. That's a perfect example of how the Republicans could be energized to control the future, at least in this one little area.
And a George Soros appointee. I might add, but Ben actually brings up a great point. We have to listen, the left are brilliant at doing everything race. They have managed to just destroy this country on identity politics. At this point, we have to start doing the same thing. Whether it's Latino candidates, whether it's women candidates, we really have to put focus on getting people in. You listen, at the end of the day, Bush was elected because people wanted to have a beer with him. I don't care if we have to get a candidate that somebody wants to sleep with, if that's what takes us to win. Or and that's just me. I will.
Wait. Bush said that we should sleep with a deer. I think you're going a little too far.
No, I said a beer. People preferred to have a beer with Bush rather than Gore.
I thought it was Kavanaugh who liked the beer.
He does. There's quite a few people, Ben, that like the beer. Remzo, I see you either silent or wanting to jump in.
Bush did say one day he wants to see a world where man and fish can live in peace together. So what animal species he slept with in college is between him and them, as far as I'm concerned. Live and let live, brother.
Live and let live is a very good slogan. No, seriously, all kidding aside, if he wants to sleep with a deer, it's fine with me.
As long as it's consensual.
Look, we here in California have crime problems. And I want to go way back. Here's a starting place for us to draw upon the good sense of the American people. There's a very powerful movement in this country called Black Lives Matter. God bless them. I admire their energy. I admire their determination. I admire their ability to raise a lot of money. But clearly, they have a non-issue. The enormous, overwhelming majority of homicides of Black men and women are done by other Black men and women. The overwhelming majority. It's not even, it's overwhelming. Somehow they have managed to con the media and con the American people, especially college students, into believing that there is a Ku Klux Klan behind every police badge, Ku Klux Klansman behind every police badge in America. That is an outrageous lie. A good place for us to begin would be by saying to Americans, we have police to protect you. And the people who tell you the police are there to kill you and oppress you are lying to you. Tell the truth about the police and how the police maintain law and order. And there will be no progress within the Black community unless there's law and order. Start there.
Ben, you bring up a great point that I want to get into the next segment, but it sort of goes to what you were speaking about with the women. But on that note, if you just tuned in, you are listening to The World According to Ben Stein. I am reading your comments in the section. I appreciate all of them. We appreciate all of them. Remzo, please tell people where they could find us.
Hey, I know not a lot of you can come here every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday and join us live, but we've got the solution for you. You can go ahead and catch The World According to Ben Stein wherever podcasts are available across Al Gore's amazing internet. Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Audible, you name it, Stitcher, we're everywhere. So go ahead, subscribe today, and leave an honest and 5-star rating and review. We're about to break 100 on Apple Podcasts. And if that's not enough for you, go ahead and subscribe to our newsletter at benstein.substack.com. benstein.substack.com.
Thank you, Remzo. You are
Thank you, Remzo.
amazing.
Beautifully done.
Remzo, you just do amazingly well at that. And
I'd like to think that my voice is audible chocolate.
Oh, very well put. Audible maple syrup. But not Aunt Jemima's.
And of course, we're joined
Rest in peace,
tonight
Aunt Jemima.
by Rob Kendall from 93.1. Bam! The future of conservative talk radio all across America. And of course, Remzo the Cap Martinez, and of course, America's humble servant, Benjamin Jeremy Stein. But Ben brings up a great point. And here's the thing you raised with BLM and all these stupid, idiotic groups that stand for nothing, Ben. Literally, they're built on BLM, on bacon, lettuce, and mayonnaise. I mean, it's just bullshit. And we all know that. And everybody that's honest knows that. But it's what the cool kids are doing. And that's been a big problem conservatives have had, is, we're not the cool kids. We're not
I am.
Well, you are, of course, and you're famously known as the funny economist, the only economist that has a sense of humor. But Ben, we're not the cool kids.
Well,
And it's really about, I mean, people are joining Black Lives Matter or Antifa or any of these jerk, whatever, what movements.
wait, what's the other one you mentioned after Black Lives Matter?
Antifa. I mean, just any of these idiotic movements that stand for nothing. But Ben, that seems to be, it's swimming with the sheep, And I love your back scratcher as I'm talking to you. But how do we get cool? And that's a big question. How do we, as it's a big problem we've had for a long time, how do we get the young vote?
Tell the truth, and the truth shall set you free. The truth is, we are the party, the people being happy and accomplishing things and making their lives matter and making their children's lives matter, because we've adhered to honesty and we adhere to certain biblical injunctions, which, omitting one or two of them, which are a little tricky to follow, are generally will lead you to a happier life. And that is where we go. And it takes a long, long way.
What about you, Rob?
So this is a very local answer for this, but when I ran for town council and won here in Indiana, one of the things I did one day was I just went to the local high school and I was running and spoke to a whole day's worth of government classes and asked them, what do you want to see in this town? And those kids were so excited. They were senior age kids, they were eligible to vote, 18 years old, and somebody actually cared about asking them what they wanted, engaging them and talking to them, that a whole bunch of them actually went out and registered themselves to vote and got their parents to go vote just because somebody cared. Somebody was willing to engage in that conversation. And we see this a lot, like in mayoral races in inner city or in big cities. We saw it here when Ballard was elected twice as a Republican mayor of Indianapolis. Republicans are just afraid for some reason to engage groups that they don't believe that they can win. It's like, we can't win them, we're not going to engage. When in reality, if you just give someone respect and listen to them and say, I'm here, let's talk to me and I will listen, you'd be surprised at how well you can do. And Republicans have to not be afraid to engage these groups that traditionally have been heavy Democrat, because even if you don't win them, you certainly cannot lose them by as much, which can result in a win.
And eventually the wheels start turning in their heads, and they think, well, maybe Rob had a point. Maybe he had a point.
So Remzo, you're into the cosplay and the comic book scene.
Wait a minute.
I got hobbies.
You know, where they dress up as you know, sort of like tentacle type stuff. But
go to San Diego Comic-Con when you eventually can, and you're gonna have an awesome time.
Oh no! I trust me. I would have loved to have gone to Comic-Con 10 years ago before it became what it is now, and some of my favorite shows.
Rest in peace, Comic-Con. Rest in peace.
Truly, rest in peace. But Remzo, how do we? You know, you're of the younger generation. I know it's not cool. You know, you were at Liberty University. You navigated this ship. What's the message? How do we get this message out to the younger generation that you know, that what Ben is saying about it's cool. It's cool to have work. It's cool to have savings. It's cool to be part of something greater. It's cool to not blame how do we get those people, Remzo?
You have to tell them how sexy you feel when you max out your annual IRS contribution to your Roth IRA. That's one. But more realistically, that's how I knew when I was an adult. But more realistically, one of the most important lessons I gained was during one of my worst jobs. I was selling Chinese makeup to strippers outside of Baltimore, and I wasn't meeting my quota. It was terrible, lead tainted stuff. It was bad.
Was this by any chance at the Gaiety Burlesque?
No. This was more like the one next to a McDonald's parking lot. Anyway. The one thing I learned having to actually go do door-to-door and business-to-business sales is that nobody wants to be sold, but everybody wants to buy. And I'll say that again. Nobody wants to be sold, but everybody wants to buy. The people who are the most influential in our society are not the ones that have to actively sell. They're the ones that people just want to emulate. And the one thing that I had the benefit of is, surrounding myself with good role models and good mentors. One of the first people I did copywriting for was a man named Jason Stapleton, who has a show called Wealth, Power, and Influence. And he had a caller one time, and it was a first-time caller, and he said, for people I want to talk to you about, what do I tell them your show is about? And he said, well, it's simple. It's the show name, Wealth, Power, and Influence. And what does that really mean? Wealth does not necessarily mean be a billionaire. It means being financially independent, being in control of your money and not having your money control you. So few of us in the world, even those making 6-7 figures, are slaves to their money. That's one thing. Power, being somebody that people go to when they need something, not a mafioso, but a public figure, a reliable neighbor, a good standing, upstanding person in your community. The people that might not always like you, but they'll respect you. And then the influence, the ability to go ahead and have that ability, that charisma to be able to go ahead and lead others, not because you're just commanding them, but because they want to follow you. We need more of those people.
No, you're completely right.
Completely right. And if I may back up, this is something Judah and I talk about all the time, and I think we should talk about it more on our show. Psychology is a very, very big part of politics. Why did we all love Reagan so much? He had a commanding personality. I was watching a show last night, a documentary about the year my wifey was born, 1947. And Ronald Reagan at that time was head of the Screen Actors Guild. And he was speaking up for them and saying they weren't infiltrated by communists. And he obviously believed it. And I think he was right. He believed it, and he put it across extremely forcefully. And I thought to myself, he never stopped putting across his points of view extremely forcefully. I would like to see us with candidates who will put their points of view across forcefully. Now, of course, Mr. Trump did that and did it magnificently. The media was terrified, and so they hammered him, kneecapped him over and over and over again. But I think if we believe in what we say we believe in and get people who reek of confidence, we will go forward, and we will go forward. And we have to decide what we want. On our last several shows, I was a tiny bit disappointed because we talked about how much we want to win, and we do want to win. We really want to win. But we want to know what we stand for. What do we stand for? I know you guys are libertarians. I'm not at all libertarian. I believe very
Rob's
much
not
in right to
Rob's
life.
not a libertarian.
I thought Remzo was.
Remzo.
Yeah. Yeah, I was trying. I thought I was pointing at Remzo.
Ben, I'm just a Republican who hates Republicans.
Well, I'm a Republican who loves Republicans. But we have to decide what we stand for, and we have to speak up for with confidence. It is cool to believe in freedom. It is cool to believe in yourself. It is cool to believe that some pointy-headed intellectual in Washington should not control your life. You should be controlling your own life.
You're completely right. And somebody in the chat brings up, I want to go back 4 years, and because somebody brought up a candidate, and Trump is obviously, the odds are he runs again because you don't poke the bear. The one thing Trump doesn't like to do is lose. But we're talking about, let's go back to 2016 and all those candidates on stage, and there were a lot of Republican candidates on stage. None of them could have carried the places Trump did. None of them. I don't care if it's Cruz or any of them. None of them would have taken Wisconsin or Pennsylvania or any of those states. So we have to start thinking about right now is a running mate for Trump, right? Or a person that could actually carry those states. And somebody brings up DeSantis, and I love DeSantis, and I like him very much. I love what he's done with Florida. I don't see right now DeSantis being that candidate. The reality is Trump is going to pick a woman, whether it's Chrissy Noem or one of these other people that sort of offset Trump's animalistic side, let's just call it. You know, that seems to bother Ben psychologically, the media so much. I just don't see it as being DeSantis right now, but that's just me personally. 4 years is a long way away. But Rob, don't you agree? Like, there has to be a yin and a yang. And I thought, and I brought this up to Ben, that I thought it was a mistake having Pence on the ticket this time. And I thought COVID gave him the perfect. I know he's from your state and you like him, and he's from your state.
Oh, no. I worked under Pence. No. I'm not a Mike Pence fan. No.
But
when they picked Pence, I was, shout at, hey, Mike Pence would not have won re-election had he had to run for governor in 2016. Trump saved Pence, and that was one of the great mistakes I thought Trump made was picking Pence, because he didn't. I've never thought Mike Pence was that strong as a politician. He's a great speaker. He's a great debater. But I just don't think from a governance standpoint, he brought a whole lot. He accomplished nothing the whole time he was in Washington, D.C., and he accomplished nothing as a governor. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just didn't want to get labeled as being a Pence guy. Sorry.
No. But my point being is Trump had the perfect opportunity to get rid of Pence, Ben, during, just make him the czar of Operation Warp Speed. And at that point, appoint, somebody that, could have offset.
Who would that be? I mean, who would he have chosen? And I would like to go back even farther than that and say, I'd like to see what we saw in Ronald Reagan, which is to say, a program. Reagan had a program. Here's for freedom, right to life, strong defense, sound dollar. That's what he was for. Let's have a Republican Party that knows what we want.
Well, we want strong defense, but no wars. We know we want the government staying out of most of our lives.
Yes.
We know we want an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. We know we want higher wages and lower taxes. I mean, these are certain things that are sort of common sense conservative values, in my opinion.
I agree wholeheartedly, but we're certainly not seeing them from the Democrats. And so this gives us a giant place to jump in. The whole minimum wage, farrago, it gives us a giant place to step in with our big feet and say, look, we're for the highest possible wage, as long as people are doing the highest possible day's work they can do.
By the way, to the people, Pence, I think, actually helped Trump in the first election. I don't think he helped him in the second election. I think he got the evangelicals and he got the Christian, and he brought them in. The ones that were very nervous about Donald Trump, Pence brought them home. I really do believe that. I think he did a great job in 2016, getting the coalition around Trump. I harbor no ill will towards that. But Remzo, what are your thoughts on that?
On who should be his VP pick?
I mean, we know he's running. I mean, that's obvious. We know Trump's going to run again.
Do you think that?
Oh, 100%. And I'm going on data of having grown up watching Donald Trump, being from New York. There's one thing Donald Trump doesn't like to do, and that's lose. You know, he doesn't want to go down as a one-term guy, even though we know he's really has a second term. We know he doesn't want to go down. Trump doesn't like to lose. And the reason he ran in the first place, supposedly, was because Barack Obama pissed him off that morning at the what's that breakfast called in Washington, where all the
the White House correspondents
dinner at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, where he really pissed him off. It wasn't breakfast; I had the wrong meal. But he really truly pissed him off. He poked the bear, and they're poking the wrong guy. And so yes, in my humble opinion, Rob, Ben, and Remzo, I believe Donald Trump will run again. I believe he's teasing it now like he does a TV show. That's how you get 31 million people to watch you speak on a Sunday at 12:40 or 3:40 in the afternoon. And that's just my humble opinion, Remzo.
I think if he runs again, he needs Mike Pompeo.
Why do you say that, Remzo?
Because Mike Pompeo is the former director of the CIA. So if you want some dark magic, like some dark bureaucratic sorcerer type of stuff, you bring in the dark art himself.
That's actually not a bad point. I got to be honest with you, Remzo. And if you just tuned in, you are listening to The World According to Ben Stein. We have one more segment after this, and I want it to be a fun one. And I will save it for after this segment. But after Remzo, tells everybody. Somebody wants to know about the Substack, so please tell people, Remzo, about Substack.
What does Substack mean?
It means whatever we want it to mean. It's beautiful. That's where we go ahead and host our newsletter. That's where you can go ahead and subscribe and catch up with previous letters from Ben. So that way you can go ahead and get a whole picture of what is going on with this wild and wacky crew. Please, while you're at it, benstein.substack.com. The biggest thing, we want to break 100 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. I still call it iTunes because I'm old. But we want to break 100 5-star reviews. I'm aging. I'm getting my AARP letter soon. We want to break 100 reviews on Apple Podcasts. So please, wherever you can find the show, but go to Apple Podcasts, The World According to Ben Stein. It takes you 2 seconds. It costs you nothing, but it means everything to us. And while you're at it, I still see new people saying, how do I subscribe? How do I subscribe? Hit the bell icon so you never miss a live episode of the show.
Thank you, Remzo. You are hired. And on that note, I want to welcome everybody back to The World According to Ben Stein. So Texas today, Greg Abbott, we could say, Ron DeSantis, we could say, did an amazing job in their states as far as COVID goes. But at the same time, we could also say that the Democratic governors of two of the biggest states have done the worst jobs. And let's get to Governor Cuomo, who's getting grilled on both ends right now, one for the sexual harassment stuff and the other for the 15,000 dead in the nursing homes.
I would like to amend that we only refer to him as Governor Nipple Piercing and as nothing else.
You are kidding. If you're telling me that he has nipple piercings, I am going to fall right through the floor.
Ben, I will text you the photos.
No, you have got to be kidding.
Once you see them, you can't unsee them.
That's
going to wake up in the middle of the night.
I would like to go on to something somewhat related to that. Here's a great place for the Republican Party to take a stand. We have at UCLA, our local university, very, very, very fine university, a very fine track team. One of the track stars was overheard in his car necking or making out or doing whatever they were doing with his girlfriend and arguing with her about her apparently having had an affair with an African-American freedom fighter. And he used the N-word in referring to that person, and he was listened to and I gather recorded, and then that recording was passed on to the powers that be at UCLA, and he was fired from the track team. To me, this is pure Orwellian nightmare Bolshevik police state tactics. I think for Republicans to say, of course we're opposed to any kind of racism. Of course we're opposed to anybody yelling at his girlfriend. But what we're really opposed to is going into the private lives of ordinary Americans and listening to them. That is Gestapo tactics We're against that. We will always be against that.
Okay, but let's get back to Cuomo right now. So
Oh.
I happen to believe that it's a smokescreen what they're doing, because, with the sexual harassment stuff, I'm not saying it didn't happen, because Cuomo looks like an animal. Let's be realistic. I mean, he just looks like a nasty human being.
Who pierces both nipples?
Who pierced both nipples to prove it.
I found the photo. I'm texting it.
But
Okay, will you show us the photo, Remso? Come on.
I'm texting it to you right now.
Now, why can't you put it up on the camera?
Because you won't be able to see it. It's protruding.
But on the,
you're right.
But on the, thank you for this great stream of consciousness. But Ben and Rob, people, I mean, it's like toss up. If you're Governor Cuomo, 15,000 deaths, or these or people blaming him for sexual harassment. And I really do believe it's a smokescreen. I mean, we have two governors that have literally destroyed their states at this point. I mean, destroyed their states. And this is where Ben brings up, we have to really just keep on going after not the sexual harassment stuff, but the 15,000 dead at the nursing homes. We have to go after Newsom, not for not for him looking like American Psycho, but for the absolute devastation that he has caused this great state at this moment.
Yeah, a man with absolutely no conscience, no respect for the Constitution at all. Before anyone had even drawn a breath, he had slammed shut the churches and synagogues and mosques of the state of California. And when this happened, one of my caregivers, who is a preacher, called the police and said, "I'm a preacher. I have a very small church. Can I have 10 people?" And the police said, "No." And he said, "Not even 10?" And they said, "You cannot even have one." Now that is Bolshevism. And that's what Newsom started in this state and spread all over the country. He's got to go. And he's an ideal poster boy for what's wrong with the Democrat Party.
And I think if we highlight that, Rob, if we really just stay, I mean, we have to stay on point. We have to stay on point. As Ben keeps on bringing up, right? What do we stand for? There's some things we also have to keep on hammering in, because the media is never going to do it. So one of them is fixing the election process. That has to be the first and foremost thing. But also bringing up that everything they accuse Trump of, with mishandling the crisis and him allowing the governors to do this, the absolute destruction that these governors have done to these states, including yours.
Yeah, think about this. What Cuomo did is maybe the worst act by any elected official in American history. I mean,
what?
You could make a compelling case.
What are you talking about?
Killing 15,000 of your own residents.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were referring to the nipple piercing. I'm sorry. I beg your pardon.
That is alone a crime against humanity. Thank you.
No, you're right. You're totally right. That's stunning. And I think if I may say so, Judah has said the absolute truth. Both of the brothers look like animals. It's just my opinion. I'm not saying they are animals. It's just my opinion. And let's start from there. These guys, they are the poster children for the media control of the government control of the media.
And so I mentioned this because the coverage on the sexual harassment side has been tenfold what the coverage of the deaths of these poor elderly people has been. And then to take
I'm an elderly person. I feel for them.
The coverage, I mean, and God bless Tiger Woods. He's an American hero in many senses. But the coverage of the round-the-clock coverage of Tiger Woods was tenfold what the coverage of the nursing home is. And Tiger Woods is alive. Like, as you said, Judah, as many as 15,000 people are dead, likely because of this guy. And yet it's just an afterthought in terms of what they're willing to cover. And yes, the conservative media has to stay on this, but we've also got to figure out a way to get these stories into the mainstream so people understand what very dangerous people are running many of these states.
Well, here's the thing, and I want to say this, the Democrats have talking points that every time something happens, every media news organization goes with those talking points. And I'm going to be completely honest with you, I'm going to say, so Rick Scott, this idiot from Florida, who goes on Chris Wallace's Fox Sunday show and says the election was 100%, in Biden. Stop. We have to get on air the people that we know are going to toe the line, are going to continually pound certain issues, election fraud, COVID, the absolute dereliction of duty by these state governors, certain points that absolutely, Remzo, you're in a state with a governor. My God, how he's still governor is beyond any,
He legalized weed.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
I thought it was because he had because of the suburban housewife vote.
They like weed too, and Adderall.
It was the fans of Mammy that.
Are you kidding? Did he legalize Adderall?
No.
Oh.
They'll never legalize that for just recreational use. It'll be less fun for them.
Right. So, but getting back to it, we have to have a script, Ben. We have to have a script. We have to have a set of talking points.
I agree, but they have to be things we believe in.
Well, we believe that Cuomo has cost the lives of 15,000 people. We believe that the response to COVID, the cure became worse than the disease.
Absolutely.
We believe Black Lives Matter and Antifa are pretty much organized militias at this point. There's certain which most Americans do believe. They're just not going to say it out loud. So certain things have to be said scripted. Just get on camera, pound the message in, and don't give a crap what people are going to think about you. And that's always been Republicans' biggest problem is they think they're going to be accepted. You're not. You're not. The media is never going to like you, Ben Stein. Not you personally. I mean, these conservatives, they're just never going to do it. So why try, Rob? Why try?
Yeah, it's always been weird to me at how these Republicans need friends. Like I got enough friends. Judah's my friend, Ben's my friend, Remzo's my friend. I got enough friends. I'm good to go, man. I don't need to be liked by anybody, and I think that's why I'm pretty good at my job. It just amazes me that so many of these politicians feel the need to be accepted and embraced by the media. That's
what politicians do, sir.
But there's only one group of people that it matters what they think of you, and that's the voters on election day. Like if you do your job, you'll go back to office. Who cares what anybody else thinks?
I'm not sure that's true, but Mr. Nixon did an incredibly great job, went back to office, and they kicked him out again for nothing.
But how about, can I ask you a question, Ben?
Yes, sir.
Was Nixon upset? Nixon understood, and so did Reagan, for that matter, that that they were never going to be liked by a certain group of people. They realized that, just like Trump.
Yes.
They realized it, yet they still came out with their points.
Right.
They held,
Nixon's points did really well.
And very well, and they were all semi-destroyed by those things. But at the end of the day, you said one thing, and that whole getting back to let's go Simba, the circle of life, Simba, back to what you posted on Parler about the Greek guy that I can't remember his name.
Yeah, Diogenes.
Diogenes, who about the one honest man. And that's what we need, in my humble opinion, is for these honest people. Listen, you might hate Jim Jordan, you might like him, but he appears to be, Josh Hawley, DeSantis, Greg Abbott, Chrissy Noem. I'm not bringing up what's her name, the schizoid, the former Nikki Haley. You never know what's going to come out of her mouth next, or who I've never seen anything like Nikki Haley. It's as the wind blows, she decides what she's going to think that day. But Remzo, closing thoughts.
I've lived in Washington, D.C. almost my entire adult life, and the longer I've been here, I hate the politicians less and I fear the people more. I have this conversation with with foreign policy experts about how do we teach China about free trade and liberal democracy, and it's like, you don't think they know? They know it probably better than you do, and they can recite it in English and Chinese, and they know it, and they just don't care. I'm starting to think that, and I brought this up the other day talking about the recall campaign of Gavin Newsom. I'm afraid that it might go through, and then they'll just replace him with another person just like him. It just won't be Hair Gel Hitler. It'll be someone else. It's a push-play issue. So I think it's at the point where it's like, I fear the politicians less, and I fear the people more. And for the first time in my life, I don't fear the government as much as I fear my own fellow man. That's why I'm moving out of this place, and I'm never coming back. And I'm not telling anyone where I'm going.
Wait a minute. You are moving out of Washington, D.C., where they have all those great museums and the National Archives.
They're closed, Ben.
They'll be open again.
They're closing down the Ben's Chili Bowl.
They're not going to be closed forever.
You know what, Ben? We don't know that.
It's been a year. It was supposed to be 15 days.
Yeah, Ben.
So I'm telling you, my boy, my young man, my friend, I still have a home in Washington. I'm coming there soon. You'll come over to my house. We have a great view out of the Potomac River. We have a lot of fun. We go out and get pizza. We go out and get chili. We have a great time. You come over.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.
That sounds like a reality show, Chili and Pizza with Ben Stein. I'm there for that.
Okay, you're there too. And you're there too.
That's a fascinating statement that Remzo just made, and it never really dawned on me until just now that I probably.
What was that? I'm sorry about just distrusting people more than the government.
It is interesting because the part of what has made America so great is this idea that we see things happen around the world and go, it can never happen here. And it seems like over the past year, a lot of things that we've said, it could never happen here, have kind of happened here. And people better wake up real fast. And they've been so dumbed down by the public education system for generations now. I'm not sure they're capable of waking up. So thanks for ruining my evening, Remzo. I appreciate it.
I'll be here all night.
And by yourself, but you will be here all night. And I'd like to wish my father, who's in the hospital right now,
God bless him.
Who had surgery today. I love you, and I could honestly say,
we all love you.
Yeah, I could honestly say I wouldn't be alive without my father. My father used to say, as long as his son was alive, there was a chance, and I believe that for in my drinking days, and I believe that for America, as long as we're alive, as long as we're kicking, there is a chance. There's a chance.
God bless your father. God bless him. We all pray for him.
I know you do. Thank you. And my father helped save. My father saved my life, and Ben has actually been a massive. No matter what cliff I've dived off in the 17 years I've been in LA, has always been there. And I've been blessed with amazing people, and we're blessed with the people that listen to the show. We humbly thank you. Please don't forget to download the podcast. It means the world to us. Give us a good review if you don't mind. As I'm asking for prayers for my father, I'm also asking for prayers for the show. Way to sell it, Judah. And but on that note, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank, of course, America's humble servant, Benjamin Jeremy Stein. Ben, if you want to lead us out in song, you're more than welcome to. If you're not feeling up for it,
I can be found sitting home all alone. If you can't come around, at least use telephone. Don't be cruel to a heart that's true. Don't be cruel to a heart that's true. I don't want no other love. You're the only one I'm thinking of.
And on that note, I want to thank America. I want to thank Rob Kendall from 93.1, ICB, BAM, the future of conservative talk radio. Of course, Remzo Martinez, catch his podcast. It's great. On the Run with Remzo Martinez, and his Comic-Con and his, what's the other one, Remzo, that's really good?
Kamikaze.
If you're tired of politics and you want to talk comics, movies, pop culture, all that, Second Print Comics at secondprintcomics.com.
And of course, you can find Ben Stein at Parler, and of course, at spectator.org. America's humble servant, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Have a great night. We will see you Thursday night.
God bless America.